Hey, welcome to the 124th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. I'm Matt Enlow.
And I'm Warren Kaplan, and today we have Jessica Sanders on. Jessica is a director that has worked in every field of film. She is Oscar nominated. She's had 2 films at Sundance. She started in the doc world, then had like a giant career as a commercial director. Steve Jobs single-handedly chose her to direct one of the first iPad commercials. And now she's moving into narrative film. She's prepping to do her first feature. She just had a short at Sundance. And now we're talking about what life is like when you're reinventing yourself.
Yeah, if you've ever thought about pivoting or changing your voice or just reassessing who you are as an artist, Jessica has a lot of really great pointers and has gone through it many times and is going through it again. So if you've ever thought about redefining your voice, stay tuned.
Yeah. But before we talk to Jessica, we are going to read some iTunes reviews.
Ooh, I love iTunes reviews.
Yeah, these are good because there's a couple that are, they're all great 5-star reviews. But
I think your dream came true, Warren.
My dream came true. I always say that if you get a negative comment, it means you're reaching people you don't know. So I think we reached that.
Oh boy, here we go. Hit me, what you got?
Our first comment is from Raquel Alethea. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. Raquel says, recently found this podcast and I really enjoy the guy's POV, though I do take issue with Oren continuing to say that LA actors are better. Coming from an actor with very few film opportunities in and around my city and unable to uproot my family, I think local hires deserve a fair shot too. Still, really entertaining and informative behind the scenes show.
You on blast.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I thought it was kind of a shared point of view that Matt and I had, but I guess it's just me. I
think you've had more gripes recently. I think.
I guess
boils down to.
In response to Raquel, I appreciate your comment, and you are 1,000% right. I might have said this. I did not mean that LA actors are better. What I was focusing on is that the pool of amazing actors in LA is bigger than in other places. At times, I think that might be advantageous if you are in Houston, let's say, and you are like one of the top 10 best actors in Houston. You are probably more likely to book a role than if you move to LA, But, there's just so many unknowns when you are making commercials, making film, making things that...
When you have to cast a lot of roles and you're looking for specific types, it's sometimes important to have more than 1 or 2 or even 10 choices. And so the places where actors tend to congregate, New York, LA, Chicago to some degree, those are the places where, just statistically speaking, there's a larger mind to go from. So that's not a accusation about quality relative to each group. There's great actors all over the world.
Right. This Comcast job I just did, we had to cast 17 people, and we want 17 great actors. So we have to see like 100 actors. And
of specific types, too.
Yeah, they're all very specific ages and looks and types and everything. And so, yeah, that all said, I told Matt this earlier, but I had a Lyft driver the other day that was an actor from Portland, Oregon. He had been acting in Portland for 20 years, and he just moved here because he said all these LA film crews would come up there and shoot Portlandia and all the other shows that shoot up there. And they would only want to bring up LA people, and they weren't super respectful or nice to the local film community or the local acting community. That's shitty, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm sorry that happens. I know it does happen, and I know I'm part of the problem. Just being super selfish, it's one thing that maybe I don't invest a lot of time in learning about film communities in other places that I don't live.
Other places,
because I'm stretched so thin trying to shoot 10 commercials in 3 days at 17 locations with, limited resources, that whatever is a known quantity, whether it's an actor person, like a cast person or a crew person that I've worked with a ton before, usually in LA, then that's helpful. But Carlin, who is, a frequent guest on the show, she's shooting now something in Austin with our friends. And one of the reasons I think they loved her for the job is because she already has like all this crew and cast connections in Austin.
She's got the hometown connections.
Yeah. So there's something helpful about being like from a different city, moving to LA and then getting a job back in that city and being able to bring film back there.
You're your own fixer.
Yes. So thank you for the comment,
Thanks,
Raquel. I apologize. So Jesslyn Ammerling says, I've been listening to this podcast while I prep for film school this fall. Matt and Oren make the film industry and its lingo super accessible for people looking in from the outside. They interview interesting guests who bring in their perspectives as well. Writers, directors, actors, etc. I would highly recommend it to anyone looking to break into the industry or still in the beginning of their career. However, at some point, you have to take a break from listening and just shoot it. Mm-hmm. Another comment that's like, hey, stop listening, start doing. Thanks so much, Jesselyn. No, you're totally right.
Go do it. Yeah.
Matt and I need to take that advice. Stop making this podcast.
Yeah, boy.
And make some movies.
What are we doing? See you later.
Oh, Matt just left. Okay, 2 more. Alex Grice says, it's amazing for filmmakers. I'd consider myself a filmmaking podcast aficionado, and this one is the best by far. Matt and Oren offer up so much useful information on both the craft and business sides with killer guests. Highly recommended. Thanks, Alex. I don't know if we are the best, but I do think we occupy a niche part of the filmmaking podcast. We were talking about this today. It's about people that are breaking into film now, as opposed to people that broke into film 10 years ago, or people that are still trying to break in. So hopefully it's useful because
it's in real time. Yeah.
There's some models of people that you can follow.
I will admit, I think we're like our guests. It's been a real treat in interviewing the guests we've had on recently. So
yeah, all our original guests are just garbage.
Oh boy, God, ugh.
Just kidding.
All of our dear friends, and also talented.
Okay, final iTunes review from LevM90. Great podcast for anyone looking to work in film. This has quickly become one of my favorite podcasts on film, up there with Script Notes and the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, which is pretty awesome. I didn't know Bret Easton Ellis had a podcast.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I tune in every week for the great insights from Oren and Matt, both working directors and their guests who come from various backgrounds, DPs, execs, actors, and more. Well worth the subscribe.
Hey, thank you so much. Well, guys, that was really flattering, really fun. Keep them coming. It does genuinely help the show grow. I think that iTunes recommendations and ratings are the #1 driver of whether or not you get algorithmically spiked, we'll say. Thank you all so much for your support and help. It's really incredible. Another way you can support the show is by contributing to our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/justshootitpod. Throw us a couple bucks. It'll really help us pay our editors who do such fine work. Show your support. There's all sorts of cool extra perks. We're designing a new sticker for you guys. We've got a live event coming up at the end of the summer. Patrons will get a little extra something, and also our newsletter. So, I think Oren put it best when he described it as our Patreon subscribers are like the IMDb Pro of the Just Shoot It community. So
yeah, I did put it best.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So look, the show is always going to be free, and so this is just an extra way to say thank you. So if you think that the show has brought you a little bit of value and you've got a little disposable income to help support the people who make it, throw us a buck or two.
Thanks, guys. And here's Jessica. Jessica Sanders, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
No problem. Welcome.
I've known Jessica for a pretty long time. You're one of the first directors. I don't know. I met you through, we have a mutual friend, Avi, and you were always directing like a bunch of cool commercials. Years ago when I first moved to Silver Lake. And you're still directing a lot of cool things.
Thanks.
So
I'm excited.
Let's talk about it.
Jessica, were you born here? Were you LA native?
Yeah, I'm from Santa Monica and
right on.
Come from a filmmaking family, so I grew up in it.
I am always curious when I meet someone who's born and raised in LA. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Harvard Westlake, which is more like nerdy than like creative.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Slytherin of the LA private schools, right? Like it's famously competitive and just
I was
high stake, cutthroat.
Yeah.
People
intense.
kill each other.
Sure.
Yeah. And it has nothing to do with Harvard, right? No relation.
Mm-mm. Actually, when I went, it was a girls' school called Westlake and a boys' school called Harvard, and they merged my 9th grade year.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool.
Ooh, what a terrible year.
Yeah, you saw girls suddenly become mean.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So your parents were filmmakers, so did they tell you have to be a filmmaker?
No, they were like, don't do filmmaking. Stay away. Be a lawyer.
Why? What was their perspective? Why did they say don't do
I think they
filmmaking?
just because like the filmmaking life is like not necessarily easy path, but they, as my mentors, like have always followed their passion and they love what they do. So, why wouldn't I want to do that too? And, traveled the world with them growing up on their films, and art and life is very interconnected, where like they made a film about Maya Lin, who designed the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in DC, and then she like designed a house for them, or they made a film on fighter pilots shot down in North Vietnam, and those people are their friends. So like it's all very connected, and it was an interesting way to grow up.
And they did mostly documentary stuff?
My dad actually started narrative, and he won an Oscar when he was 21 for a short film called A Time Out of War, and then he discovered Robert Redford with his brother. They directed Redford's first movie called War Hunt.
Wait, your dad discovered Robert Redford? Are you serious?
Yeah,
oh, I didn't know
first
that.
movie. And then he and his brother both got into documentaries. So he started out narrative, but he's been doing... And then actually at age like 85, he just directed a narrative film. So,
right.
Based
Way
on a
to
script
go.
that he wrote in
Good.
1966 and like resurrected it
Wow.
about first love.
That's awesome.
So it's never too late to follow your dreams.
So did you note that script?
I actually found it like, I don't know, like 7 years ago, and I wanted to direct it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then my dad was like, let's co-direct it. I'm like, and then I was like, you need to make your movie. So,
Yeah.
but there was a period where I wanted to direct it, but it's his story, and
Sure.
he needed to make that movie. It was cool.
Wait, you found the script like in an old drawer or something?
I don't know. I just like came across it. It's called Liza, Skies Are Gray. And it's this kind of coming of age teen love story, and set on the California coast. And these kids drive up from Santa Monica to Big Sur to lose their virginity, and it's really beautiful. And I don't know, it's a good story.
That's cool. Do you think, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, but do you think that like a 25-year-old filmmaker versus like a 45-year-old filmmaker versus an 85-year-old filmmaker making a movie about teen love, like that those three versions of the movie come out very differently from each other?
Like, you mean saying based on age?
Yeah, that like the things that how old you are, the things that you care about are a lot different, right? Like if you're in your 20s, there's like pretty much one thing you care about, which is like kind of sex and friendships and roommates, right? Like three things you care about. But then if you're like in your 40s, it's a little bit more about like, where am I going in life, right? So it just seems like very different perspectives as human beings, not necessarily filmmakers. So if you're making like a teen love story,
As like an older person. I mean, that my dad, it was based on his own like first love story, and he directed it 85. So I guess, yeah, it felt as a nostalgic feel. It's set in the 60s. So yeah. I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
yeah, that's awesome. So you started out making documentaries.
I did. So I definitely followed in my family's footsteps.
Do you remember the moment that you were like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot? Sorry, Mom and Dad.
I went to Wesleyan and I studied film, and I made a narrative short that like did the festival circuit. It was my thesis film, and I was like, I'm good at I was just like, I could tell I was like, I felt confident in it, and I just felt like I was good at it, and it was fun. And what's the question?
Just the moment that you decided, like, oh, I'm going to be serious about being a filmmaker. Yeah.
I think I just always, like, I never was like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I just like immediately started directing very early on. So I've started, my first, like I said, my first thesis film, I've been touring with the festival since like for 20 years, a long time. So I just did it.
Yeah.
And were you doing shooting and editing and doing everything yourself, or did you always kind of work with the team?
I've always worked with talented cinematographers. So actually my DP, Shauna Hagen, who's like a big documentary DP, she shot my student film, and now I still work with her.
Oh, cool.
And then I edited my first short film, and I actually kind of started out in editing a little bit. But yeah, I've always I'm very collaborative, and I don't like doing everything myself. Not because I can't, but I just think it's more fun and inclusive, and bringing smart people together to create something is like one of the best things ever, right?
Yeah. I only barely worked with you once. I did
really?
I did some VFX shots
Oh, right. You
on
did some-
Bunyan, your
yes.
short film. But I'm in that movie too. I'm hacky sack in the park.
Typecast.
But I remember you just had like every person on your crew just seemed like so good.
Oh, thanks.
And you made it for like no money, right? So
yes.
So you directed a lot of commercials, right? Is that like part of how you get like really good crews to work for you?
I mean, I feel
projects?
like whether it's tiny or bigger budget, like you still always have to have the best people. I mean, it doesn't mean like they're like the fancy, just like good people, so.
Sure. But I think, there is a difference between having the resources to hire the best people and then maybe the friends and family version. Like, and maybe Oren is asking, like, how do you build relationships with the people that you got for Bunyan, for instance?
Yeah. Well, and also my new short film, I definitely like benefited from my commercial creative teammates that I work with and brought them onto my narrative. So, yes, being a commercial director, I always say is like the best thing that ever happened to me because I had a 11-year career as a documentary filmmaker and traveled the world, like was nominated for an Oscar, won Sundance, like have had theatrical films and, but
you won Sundance with March.
With After Innocence,
After
Innocence. It was the first major film about wrongfully convicted people cleared by DNA and what happens once they get out of prison. And my first narrative feature film, which I'm going to do next, is based on a story from that film.
Oh, and did you find that story yourself?
Yeah, I developed it from scratch. Basically, for After Innocence, my producing partner was an attorney with the Innocence Project, and I had been nominated for an Oscar for a film called Sing about one of the best children's choirs in the country. And so we had a mutual friend. So I was like the filmmaker, and he was the lawyer. He had the access to the Innocence Project, and the Innocence Project had never given access to anyone before to tell the stories of their clients. And we got permission, and we started this journey where at the time, like now there's like Serial and Making a Murder, and like there's so much attention on wrongful conviction stories, but our film was like the first. And
Well, a thin blue line, right?
okay, there was but this was like has helped change laws. It helped one guy get $2 million for 22 years in prison for a rape he didn't do. Like it became
Sure.
part of like a bigger thing. But yes, there was thin blue line for sure.
Which did that too.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen that in like 100 years.
Oh, it's good. I mean, it's still weird because it does all of those reenactment things, But like, yeah, definitely.
Errol Morris. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
We're
his thing.
very different filmmakers.
Hey, man.
But we both actually the only filmmakers that were allowed. Sorry, I'm like going all over the place. But we're the only
it's
filmmakers allowed to film at Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos. Do you know about her?
Mm-mm.
She's the woman who's like now like under like investigation because her company, the blood testing company, like she was the youngest self-made female billionaire. And it was just funny that I haven't met Errol, but we both filmed at Theranos. Anyways, but back to After Innocence. Anyways, yeah, it was a great experience making that movie, and but yes, there was Thin Blue Man.
Yeah,
but
no, sorry.
Damn it, Matt.
sorry.
You ruined the flow.
Yeah, no,
Just kidding.
Yeah. But you were saying though before, just to kind of circle back, because I feel like we are all over the place, and you've got so much interesting stuff to talk about. But you were saying commercial directing was the best thing that ever happened to you because you'd won all these awards, you'd done documentary, and then you kind of moved into commercial, and that maybe helped you solidify your teammate? Is that what?
No, it just creatively, like I was ready for a new chapter. Like I grew up in a documentary filmmaking family. I creatively like did major documentary films for, like I said, like 11 years. And I don't know, I felt like I'd done what I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of like and I basically made this really intense Holocaust movie that Warren mentioned called Mark of the Living. It was a Brazilian Holocaust production shot in Brazil, Germany, Poland, Israel, and the U.S. And it like kind of kicked my butt. And after that, I was like, I edited it for a year. It was crazy. And it was in 5 languages. And I don't know, after that, I just was like, I don't want to make a documentary for a while. And it doesn't mean that I won't, but it's just like I consciously shifted into more crafted narrative filmmaking. And at the same time, this like opportunity came up to make an autobiographical short film for Sony that was shot at my parents' house, and it was 90 seconds long, about like having film in the refrigerator and like film stock under the bed, and it's all, it's all real. The object, I don't like to be on film, so it's my story told through the objects in our home, and that launched my commercial career because it ended up going viral and winning in Cannes, and Steve Jobs saw it. And then commercial directing, I would say, is the best thing ever happened to me because, one, it's so fun, and I like support, and I like collaborating with like production designers and costume designers, and just having more. I think documentaries, like, it's like you're doing everything. I mean, I do have a crew, but it's like it's still doing a lot. And I just, in commercial directing and more narrative directing, it's like you get to just do the more creative stuff, and that's been so much fun.
I wonder if, I think about the nature of not having, let me back up. My parents were like totally normal, like work a day. Like my mom's a teacher, my dad's a plant salesman, right? And so
your dad sells plants?
He was like merchandising, basically. So he was a sales rep for like a company that would make sure that Walmart had plenty of daisies.
Okay.
Literally, yeah. So like, and I always joke, my grandparents were an FBI agent, a stay-at-home mom, a meat packer, and like a telephone technician. So like straight up 50s jobs, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like classic, like I Love Lucy style jobs. Anyway, so the point is that I didn't have a creative lifestyle modeled for me, right? And so the idea of freelancing is insane to them. Not having, like, my grandpa worked at AT&T his entire life. He had one job. That was it. I mean, like, the company split a couple times, so you got great stock options, but like, that was their whole thing. And so I wonder if there's maybe something about your parents are both documentarians, like it's a more natural step to be like, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is shoot documentary. And then once you get the hang of that, shifting into something else, maybe. Could that be part of the process, you think?
Maybe. I mean, I went
projecting?
to Wesleyan and I studied narrative filmmaking, and I made a narrative short, and I always intended to do narrative. And during my documentary career, like, I wrote my first script and realized I'm like, I rather work with writers who are better at it than me. So I've wanted to do narrative, but I also like, maybe between like getting a strong handle on like character and narrative in the documentary world, and then also becoming a very experienced director as a commercial director, working with like huge crews, huge budgets. Like now I'm like very, very ready to do a narrative feature. So, I don't know, and maybe, just like evolving as a creative person.
Well, I want to talk about your latest short and your feature that you're doing, but the last thing I want to ask about, like, your transition from documentaries to commercials is, I think what I'm thinking, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are thinking, is like, to try to make a sustainable living, it seems to the outsider that you would make a lot more money doing commercials and maybe be able to save up some money or buy a house or get a 401k or something. And in documentary filmmaking, it's probably a little bit harder. I mean, we don't really get residuals doing any of our jobs, right? So it's like whatever you get paid next week, you're not going to get paid again until you get the next job.
Yeah, for sure. Being commercial director is night and day. I mean, I've always made a living as a filmmaker in documentaries, so is my family. But yeah, when suddenly you like learn, like become a commercial director, like, oh, this is completely different. And it's great because you're getting paid to like also learn, like try with like work with drones or cranes or like work with incredible cinematographers who do huge movies, so, and you can make a living in a much more vibrant way. And then, like, for instance, I've been able to save up so I can develop my feature. And so that's been very helpful.
That's awesome. So, okay, so you made a short that premiered at Sundance this year, End of the Line, with Simon Helberg and Brett Gelman and a bunch of other cool people, right? Or how did that come about?
I actually read that story 13 years ago, and I've wanted to make it for 13 years. So, but it's a very ambitious short. it's all visual effects because it's about a man who goes to the pet store and buys a 2-inch man in a cage and brings him home. And we had to build a 30-foot cage. We built a 30-foot penis. We had 67 visual effects shots.
Who doesn't have a 30-foot penis just laying around, though?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's like red cameras and 30 feet penis.
Right.
But so it's just one of these crazy stories. It's written by the writer Amy Bender, and so I just was like, I really want to. I don't know. This image of the little man in the cage always stayed with me. So, so I just knew I wanted to make it. I didn't know how I would ever make it, but I just knew I would. It's like want something you have in your back pocket. And then a woman named Joanne Geiger, who's a screenwriter, she's writing another feature for me. I was like, oh, maybe you should do this short. And she loved it. And so she adapted it maybe like 6 years ago, and we would work on it on and off. And then
And did you have the rights to the story?
Not yet. Yeah. I mean, I knew the writer, but I hadn't optioned the rights yet.
Oh.
And then 2 years ago, I met with Refinery 29. They're like a women's, like a mega website.
Online magazine.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
and
did the
they-
series Shitty Boyfriends. Do you know that series?
I don't know, but they're amazing. I love them. They're amazing. And they basically are like, they're killing it. And they're basically like, Hollywood is so unequal in its hiring practices of women. 4% of Hollywood features are directed by women. We want to help create change. And they started a campaign called Shatterbox, where every year they're supporting, I think, like 8 female directors in their films. And so I'm very lucky to be, have my film financed by them and TNT. And also I had to get additional support from a couple generous executive producers because the film is not not a
Expensive.
small film.
Not
but,
cheap.
Wait, and how did you become one of those 8? Did you apply or did they?
I just like
Contact you?
happened to have like a random general meeting. Someone was like, "Oh, you're in New York. You should go meet with them." And I met with them, and they were like, "Oh, we have this new thing called Shadow." I didn't even know what they were, and now I'm like a huge. Like I'm
Fan.
indebted to them. Yeah, they're amazing. I love them. Yeah.
And so you sent them, you're like at your general meeting, you're like,
Well-
by the way, I have this.
Well, I actually had
project.
another project with our friend Avi, like an improvised comedy that I've been like working on, and because that's like female, and Refinery 29 is about women, so end of the line, my short is about men and power and like penises. It's not about women, so I didn't think they would be interested, but they're like, oh, the theme of Shatterbox is power, so I was like, well, it is about power, so I sent it to them, and they're like, oh my god, we love it. So it was awesome. It was cool that they loved it. So, but it took 2 years to set up.
I'm curious, how did you go about optioning the story once you were ready to go for it? Just like literally the logistics of like how do you do
Well,
that?
I did know Amy, the writer, but I've optioned other books, and you just contact the writer, and your lawyers negotiate it. And then,
So when you say you contact the writer, like literally though,
I think I sent her an email, and I'm like, hey, I'm interested.
You like Google their website and shoot them an email?
Probably. I think, yeah, most people you can like find out where they're repped. And she's like, cool, that sounds fun. And then you have the lawyers talk. And
Is there, I'm always curious about like, I wonder if there's a way of doing a little bit of research and knowing whether or not something has already been optioned or not. You know?
you can't, I mean, I know that this story actually, I think, like, I don't know if Rosanna Arquette, but someone like that had optioned it, I think, before me, but never did anything with it. And it is, and actually my next project, which is a story that I like helped have find the writer for the book, like they first like had someone else option it, then I mean, so I think if you are passionate about a story or a book or an article, like keep tabs on it because things fall apart or so it doesn't, it's not a bad thing. I mean, if it's an option before, it doesn't matter.
Is that like part of being a filmmaker to you? Is it like keeping your eyes open for like kind of cool stories? And like, it seems like, because I kind of feel like for the past few years, I've kind of been hearing of you like looking for scripts or finding projects or developing things. Like how much of your week do you dedicate to like finding stuff to direct?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm not the best reader of scripts, like I'm not the fastest, but I do get scripts sent to me. So by my agents or even my short, like a couple producers have reached out to me. They're like, oh my God, we want you to direct our movie. And they weren't necessarily the right fit. But I mean, like my feature that I'm doing and also the short, these are all like things I've been with for like I said, like 13 years and I've developed from scratch. And And I have another project that's based on a book that my best friend wrote, and I've also been developing for like 8 years. So like, I guess I would totally direct something that I can just be hired on and not have to develop it from scratch. But I do like, yeah, to like have it be my baby and really like, I think like good stuff takes a long time to find its way.
Right. And you've been attached to things and detached and
A little bit, not like heavily, but yeah, maybe like one or two projects.
Right. Yeah. Because I think a lot of our listeners are kind of all over the place. A lot of working professionals, a lot of film school students, a lot of people that are just moving to LA or deciding to like get into film. But it sounds like kind of what you have is like, you have all these stories you want to tell while you're making a living as a filmmaker doing commercials or documentaries.
Yeah.
But you also are like networking and getting meetings and basically like...
And then you're ready with the right project for that meeting.
Like you need those two elements to come together.
Yeah, if you didn't have the script for your short, then that meeting with Refinery 29 would have just been nice and you had a bottle of water.
That was just like one of those things that was like, oh my God, I do have something.
Right.
But yeah, but that's like, that was like, I have that. There was not like a 50 shorts laying around.
You don't
that
have
was
like
my prize that I've been like,
right, but you also had that feature that you were developing with Avi, and like I feel like it's happened like you've originated a lot of projects, whether it's something you found or whether it's...
I have originated a lot of projects, and I also just think like, I mean, there is an imbalance in hiring practices in Hollywood, and I definitely have gone up for feature jobs and like not gotten, so I it's not like I'm like not trying to get hired on stuff too, so it's like it's a mix. But I'm lately very inspired by like Jordan Peele, or I just saw Sorry to Bother You with Boots Riley, and I met him at Sundance, or I just saw John Waters' Hairspray last night, and just like even with my short coming out or my feature, there is something about like we're artists, right? And like having your own, just like investing in your own art and your own baby is like. Like, I mean, I'm in the process of like my first narrative feature, which has been like a very long road, but it's going to be like my creative dream coming true. And I think that will then attract, like, I just think it's like right now I'm interested in like investing in my own like stuff. And
betting on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like because we, Matt and I we're going to try to shoot something together. Because we do this podcast together for 3 years and it's been working, and we're like, I think we both have the same issue, which is we want to make our own things, and we feel like we're artists to some extent. We have stories we want to tell and things we want to explore, but we also like want to make a living and support our families and go out to restaurants and do all that stuff.
I don't eat out.
Go on trips.
Free pizza right now with you guys, so that's why.
Jessica just goes from podcast to podcast, being like, "Hey, I might order some food.
What free food can I get?"
No, but how do you get over that anxiety of like looking for the next commercial job or looking for the next paid gig and say, "Hey, I'm going to just take this time and develop this script or option this thing," knowing that it might not go anywhere,
Well, it's not like I'm not looking for commercial work or anything like that. Like everything's all
like, no,
in
pass,
process. But I like, hopefully I'm directing my film in the next 6-8 months. So like I have turned down some things that didn't seem like I do want to really like invest all my a lot of creative energy in like making this the best possible film. So, but yeah, I'm not like turning down like a paid gig if it's the right gig, but everything, it takes a really long time. So,
right.
But yeah, my test is like, if you're obsessed with it and you love it, cause it's going to take a long time, like then that's the litmus test. Cause if you're not like deeply passionate about it, it's too hard and long to like not be, it's just, you have to
make a movie.
Yeah.
Do you think that's true even for your first project? Or do you think it's like kind of helpful to get like your first feature out of the way or feature length piece?
No, I think like all the auteurs that I love, they did like, whether it's, I don't know, Damien Chazelle did Whiplash. Like if you like do I mean, of course there are people like got their feet wet, but I mean, my path, like it is like my first doc, like when Sundance, my first commercial was the Sony thing. I don't know. So I'm like, maybe that's my path where like I'll go kill it with the first thing and then see what happens. But I don't know. I'm in the process right now. So.
Right. And how'd you find the writer that's writing the movie?
I got a great writer. I'm very, very involved, but I saw the movie Elle.
Oh yeah,
Which
I love that movie.
Hubert was nominated for an Oscar, and
She won the Oscar.
She was nominated.
No, she won.
I think she won the French Oscar, but not the
No,
American Oscar.
she won the Isabelle Huppert. Yeah, she won Best Actress.
I don't think so.
I'll confirm right now.
Yeah.
I don't
sure
remember.
She didn't.
I'm pretty sure because
No,
everyone...
I know she didn't. I know she won like the French Oscar, like, but not. Okay,
Lauren, I
Let
think
me know.
everyone in their
pretty
car
sure.
is like shouting at you.
Best Actress nominees 2017. Emma Stone. Damn it.
So, anyways,
Golden Globe. She won the Golden Globe.
There you go.
So I mean, I'd been developing the script for a couple of years, but David Burke is awesome. It's like one of the best. He's amazing. Anyway, so I assumed he was French, and I was looking. I had a writer, and then parted ways, and so I was looking for a great writer, and I saw Elle because it's about a woman who's raped, and my film involves a rape, and when I got out of that movie, I was with a friend. They're like, "Oh, you got to find a writer like that." I was like, "I know, it's such an incredible movie." And then like the next day, I was out with some friends. I was like, "I need to find a screenwriter," and she's like, "Oh, our friend wrote Elle." I was like, "Oh my god, I just saw it. He's not French." She's like, "No, he lives in Burbank." He's like our friend. So I wrote him email, and like he wanted to do it, and like it was amazing. It was like it was a miracle.
Wait, so you just saw Elle. Your friend said that they knew the person that wrote Elle.
No, she just randomly was. I didn't even say that I'd seen Elle. She was just like, "Oh, our friend is like blowing up. He just wrote Elle." I was like, "I just saw it."
That was written by a man?
Yeah.
Wow. So
David
have you
Burke.
seen it?
I haven't
Matt?
seen it,
It's
no.
really good.
Yeah.
It's really like fucked up, but in a good way.
I missed it.
So then you just called them and you were like, hey,
I just wrote him an email, and then yeah.
see, I guess, and I would be like,
Hold on. Pump the brakes here.
okay.
Like you're like, hey, I saw your movie. We have this friend in common.
Well, I tell him about the project. It's
Sure.
based on a best-selling book. I'm a like.
And you own
I
the
put up
option
all
to,
my
like-
awards. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm an Oscar-nominated Sundance Academy. You say
Sure,
all that
sure.
stuff to make you sound fancy, but also he has to like love the story, and also he specifically, he's like he's done like 14 movies, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it hasn't necessarily been the easiest road, and a lot of it has been horror. So Elle was like his
interesting.
break
Yeah, yeah.
out and like getting out of that. And so I think even with Picking Cotton, I think he's like, I really think he can write anything. So I think he wouldn't maybe not necessarily be offered a project like this. So for him, it was a different kind of thing.
So you're offering him an opportunity. You've got like this pedigree of that, but no, for real though,
Okay,
because I
yes.
think that I don't want to give listeners the misconception that it's that easy, but in a certain sense it is, right? So like breaking down the fundamentals
I
of it, I
think
think
the
are
one
valuable.
thing to take away is like if you love somebody or something, like go for the best is like if you can,
Sure,
know. And
yeah.
I definitely like went out to a lot of like major writers too who didn't. It was too small for I don't know, like, or they wasn't a good fit, or who knows what. But I mean, yeah, I think even with my short film, like, I got big actors on my little short film because I was like, let's
Sure.
go for it, instead of thinking, oh, it's short, it's like small. I was
small,
like, no,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I got Simon Helberger's on The Big Bang Theory. I got Brett Gelman, who's like on Stranger Things and Lemon. Like they loved the script, and it was
Right.
And it wasn't, for them, it wasn't about being paid well. Right.
I mean, Simon is so rich.
It was SAG, so yes,
Sure.
we had to pay
Sure.
them. But yes, I don't think a short film is about creative opportunity, I think. And
Yeah.
someone like Simon, I don't think he got, like, he had a very,
Yeah.
they both had a lot of emotional range in this film, and in ways that, especially Simon, I think with Big Bang Theory, maybe doesn't get to do a role like
Right.
this.
Well, it's
So
he does some provocative stuff
there's some
in it.
provocative stuff in the short, yes.
He
Did
gets
you
very-
have any personal connections to either of them? Or like, how did you get to Simon?
We are both at the same talent agency, but I had met him once, kind of socially, like a couple of years ago. But they still have to it's just because you met them once doesn't mean like.
Sure.
So basically, both of them, I wrote them a letter being like, "I think you're amazing. You'd be, you'd be incredible for this role. Like, I hope you like it. But everything I do usually starts with like like I said, like the email or a letter. Just
So you have the same, you're at the same agency as Simon. So you ask your agent if he or she can pass your letter on to
which is amazing. You're like,
their agent?
It works in shorts. Yeah. Even Bunyan, I didn't know Alia Shokot. And
Oh, you didn't?
no.
Oh,
And
thought you guys were like
we're not
BFFs.
even at the same agency or anything. And I think I just called her agent and sent her the letter and a script. So in that regard, it's like cool to know that, you know, if you do reach out, it does get to
Wait, can you
people.
tell us the secrets of the letter? Like, what do you include in that? So obviously you tell a little bit about yourself, right? Like your
Yeah, I mean, I
credits.
think you should always keep letters simple and short and always underpaid. Like you don't want to have some long letter, so it should be simple and effective. And
Do you tell her why you think she's like uniquely...
now we're going to Alia.
Yeah, or any of them. That you do
Yeah,
tell the
I think
actors.
like I'm a big fan of your work. Like I love like this what you've done, and like I'm writing you about, you know, the role of little man, and you know, just and like why I love this story and what like as an actor I think they can bring to the role, and a couple lines about me, and like I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
But you don't send like a lookbook or check out this test we shot or this is what I'm imagining it'll look like or tone.
No, because I think it does boil down to the writing, right? Always. So I think for End of the Line, I did have like a very simple, like 2 pages of visuals, but Bunyan, no.
And do you talk about the rest of the team? Do you say like we got this DP or this, it's
No,
finance?
because I don't
or
even have
anything?
any of that. Yeah.
Oh, and
No.
do you have
And also,
them?
I don't think, I mean, I love my DPs, but I don't think people like, I don't know, unless it's like, right.
Sure.
Right.
I don't know, most people, no. I think they have to, it has to be a good creative fit, and they have to love it and also feel safe, I think.
Yeah, I remember, this is a very weird tangent, but I was trying to remember I was doing that movie, I was attached to this movie a year ago. We were looking for an older actor, and I think we're out to Christopher Walken. And I have a friend that's like a psychic, and he was like trying to channel Christopher Walken. I was like, I need to write him a letter, but I don't know what to say. And he's like, hold on, let me channel him, and I'll tell you what to say. And
That
we're
is
like in the middle of a
worst
restaurant.
pitch for an SNL sketch I've ever heard in my life.
We're in the middle of Pine and Crane, this Taiwanese restaurant here in Silver Lake, and he just like closes his eyes and he's like, hold on. He's like, I'm going to do something weird, but just like, hold on, don't say anything. I'll be back with you in a second. He just like closes his eyes and he's like, holds his hand like, you know, in like the Om position, and he just like channels Christopher Walken. And then he like comes back to me and he's like, okay, so it's a long shot. We'll start with this. I never told you about this?
No.
I thought I talked about this on the podcast before.
No, you have not.
Are there tarot cards also involved?
No, he's like an empath NYC. You can follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, you're blowing my mind.
Anyway, he goes,
This is a side of Oren that I've not seen before.
Yeah, well, he goes, so there's 2 ways you can get Christopher Walken. First one, probably not going to happen, is just to offer him like a fuck ton of money, right? And he's like, how much can you pay this person? I was like, I don't know, like $1 million? He's like, nah, that's not the game changer for him. Second thing is he doesn't care about you. Don't talk about you. Don't talk about why you care. Just talk about why he's uniquely suited for this film, what you've seen him do, and why you think he's the only person.
You had Ross the psychic.
Yeah.
He's an empath.
Jessica, she was channeling.
Yeah, no, so I guess he
Mr.
was
Big
right.
Bang Theory.
Well, I guess just to, I just don't know how granular, like I don't want it to seem patronizing. I don't want to say like the way you looked at Leonardo DiCaprio and like Catch Me If You Can just really made me think that you would be perfect for this.
I don't know. I guess if it comes from the heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not bullshitting, then maybe it's fine.
But if they're the 5th actor you're going out to.
But if they're the 5th actor, and there has to be a reason why you're writing them.
Right.
So
I wonder if this is speaking just from personal experience. I think that when you're kind of like getting a little lower on your list, like that first choice passes, second choice, you're still super excited. Even when you get down to your 5th, I'll do the thing of like, you kind of copy and paste the letter and then you tweak the important things here and there. I wonder if maybe just starting from scratch keeps you from phoning things in or like not bullshitting.
So, but I also think
bit,
like things happen the way they're supposed to happen. So if like people are not a good fit, it's like good. It's good. You're like, oh, good. You're not like it's all good. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. My DP for the short ended up like his movie pushed and couldn't do it, and like it was like 2 weeks before the like, or maybe 3 weeks, but it was a very involved visual effects shoot, and I needed someone who was like available like 10 hours a day of prep for weeks before. It was because it was so intense, and I ended up getting an amazing DP, but it's like the right person will unfold. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of what you're saying that's really kind of inspiring is just like you see Elle and you like the writing, contact the writer of Elle.
Just go get them. Yeah.
I've heard of people, sometimes I'll like see a short from someone that's like never made anything before and it like looks amazing. And I'm like, how does it look so good? And
Yeah,
they're
and
like,
reach out to the
we got the
DP.
colorist from, CSI. It's like, how'd you get him? He's like, I don't know. I emailed him. He said he'll do it.
Yeah, that's
for
the
like
thing.
a night.
I really feel like just go for what you want. Yeah, because like
Yeah.
I feel like we're all creative people who want to do good work and connect, and like just go for it.
Yeah. Well, so how'd you put the feature together? Or is it cast already, or what process are you
No,
at?
we are in process of setting it up right now, so I can't say too much. But it's been a journey getting here, and it's moving in the right direction. So I'm excited.
But it's independent. You're going to make it independently, right? Like not with the studio.
Yeah,
Did having your short at Sundance like help in any way?
it can't
Like,
hurt
you?
for sure. I mean, the timing of the short is just like it's been good, the timing of it, just because like, and also for myself, like before I do my feature, the short was basically a feature, but we only shot for 6.5 days, but it was like the same. I would hire like my creative team, the amount of prep. I mean, it was the best for me as a director to like kind of feel like, okay, now I'm ready to do it for longer. For myself, it was the best. And then for definitely just because I hadn't had a narrative sample since Bunyan, and this is a lot more complicated. And
Can you tell us what this story's about?
of which one?
The movie that you're going to do?
It's called Picking Cotton, and it's based on a true story from my documentary After Innocence, about a white woman in North Carolina who was raped in college. She spent 30 minutes with her rapist, who was black, and studied his face. It was dark, and in a lineup, she identified a man named Ronald Cotton and was totally certain that he was her rapist, and he was sentenced to life in prison. And after 11 years, he was the first DNA exoneree in North Carolina. When he got out, she wanted to meet him and apologize, and he forgave her, and now they're best friends. They're also activists, and he also solved his own case. He was in prison with a real rapist, and like 6 months in figured it out, and was able to get like a retrial and like present the real rapist. And she was like, I've never seen this man in my life. So eyewitness Miss ID, which is what like like she like thought, she was like, that's my rapist, but she was wrong, like is actually the leading cause of wrongful conviction. So like laws have changed because of this case. Lineups are banned in a lot of states because she was given 7 men in a lineup, but the real rapist was never there. So, but as a victim, you feel like, oh, why are they showing me the 7 guys? I should choose one of these people. So they were in my documentary. So I've been friends with them for like 13, 14 years. I helped them find a writer for the book, Picking Cotton, Erin Tornio. And so they co-wrote it in their voices with her. And it became a New York Times bestselling book. And I'm directing the adaptation of it. So I'm really excited.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, can't wait.
hard-
That sounds great.
I know, and it's hard to think of,
that's
like,
a wonderful pitch. Yeah.
A more perfect person to direct it too, which is right.
I mean, I'm
one of the
friends
challenges.
with them. I've been with this story for many, many, many years. And I think there's an activist part of me that like the work that I did with After Innocence of like changing laws and helping innocent people and like just like being part of criminal justice change. I want it to even go even further with this film. So I'm really excited.
And does this start like at the beginning, like at the crime, and end
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
exoneration, or
Or like a little
Or after?
Yeah.
or at
little
the
after, yeah.
finding the real person?
Or about how starting a relationship as two people who are both harmed by the system and actually share the same perpetrator too. And
Right.
that they're very, like two people who they're the same age from the same place, but they're different races, different classes, like completely different personalities, but they're totally connected. And it's almost like a love story in a
Right.
way.
And it's a perfect like act structure thing, right? Like if you look at a movie like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or like a real by the book kind of story where the second act is about them. They're assassins and they're assigned to kill each other. So they're like each other's enemies and opponents for the entire second act. And at the end, when they have their final shootout in their house and they're seeing every item in their house that's reminding them of their love and their marriage, they kind of come back together with like a kiss. And then they were like, shit, now we got to be together.
I have to rewatch that movie.
It's really good. You know,
I
it's
love
written
the
by
movie.
Simon.
I did love the movie. I haven't thought about it in relation to my movie, but I should look at it again.
Yeah, it was written by Simon Kinberg. But I think like every movie, not every movie, but every kind of relationship movie, a good one, I think the second act is that people are opposing each other and they kind of come back together at the second act and they figure out who the real bad person is, which is in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they're still on the hook to kill each other, right? For their bosses. So now they have to team up and go take out their bosses, pretty much. They have to like kind of destroy the system, which is, I mean, very much like your story, right? It's like these two people are
The shootout at the end of Pig
A little different, but I mean,
No, but
yeah, maybe.
But the fact that the same perpetrator, they're opposing each other, right? And then
there's a symmetry to it for sure.
they come together to take out the real bad guy.
Yeah. Well, Ronald does. Yeah, it's a crazy story that it's true. So, and also I like it because it's positive and that like it's about forgiveness. I think like everybody did their best, like from the cops to like as soon as they found out that Ronald was innocent, it was like, let's get him out. Like the police officer involved became police chief and he helped ban lineups. Like I feel like there's so many stories of misconduct and I think it's inspiring. That's actually like a positive story. And
it's a redemption story for everyone.
Part of telling something that's not just like another negative story.
So when you have a great story like this, that you have all the pieces you need, right? Like it's all kind of lining up. How do you decide how much money you need to make it? And like how does the production start fitting into your thought process?
Just in the beginning, like I said, I'm setting it up right now, but I hired a line producer, so we did a schedule and budget to keep it like affordable. And
do you know how many days you're going to shoot or anything like that?
I mean, this is like the schedule. I don't know how it'll all shake out, but like right now it's like 33 days.
And is it a period piece?
It takes place in 1986 to 95. So, but I've also scouted every single location that I could of the actual story just for myself as a filmmaker because I'm a big nerd and just want to like know what everything looks like and like what the people I just want to talk to. Like I visit all the prisons that Ronald was at. I want to shoot at one of the prisons.
Like a real working prison?
Yeah. So like I've probably been about 14 prisons in the US and then all these concentration camps. I didn't realize I was like really into all this, but apparently I'm into injustice and systems and even like the short film with Little Man in a Cage. I was like, oh, it's like a prison. Like I didn't mean to be a prison person, but there is definitely a strong theme there. And, but I've been to many prisons and this one prison that Ronald was at is a former slave plantation. It's 13,000 acres. It's like 99% black people picking vegetables, picking cotton now. It was built in the 30s. It's the most decrepit, horrible place I've ever seen. And I've been to like tons of prisons and also most prisons that I see in film are like shiny new prisons like Orange is the New Black or
like Alcatraz
Night of. And it's just not, when I saw this prison, I'm like, I want to shoot here I want my prison to look like what this really looks like. 'Cause
it's like Walking Dead.
Well, just like we're here in Los Angeles and there are people living in like, like 60 bunk beds with like a one fan and like a cooler. And it's just like 1,000,000 degrees and it's just horrible, and like, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in our country and I want to help bring light to that. So
cool. Yeah. So you're like, I want to bring a film crew in here.
I mean, we'll see how that works. But the warden was named Mr. Brickhouse. I mean, can you not like write a better name for the ward? I was
My
like,
name is Jail Brickhouse.
Yeah, it was Mr. Brickhouse. And then when I went to his office, he had like next to his desk, like a tiny mouse trap with like a tiny piece of cheese. I was like, I don't know, it just felt like a old fashioned movie. Yeah, it just didn't feel, I was like, what? You can't even like production design. It was like, felt fake. It was too perfect.
Yeah. Are you DGA?
Been a member for 11 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, got in on my second doc.
Oh, wow. And so What do you think about being DGA? Is that helpful for you, or does it matter?
The healthcare is amazing as a commercial director. I think it's great. I love it.
And all your commercial jobs are DGA?
Yeah.
Is there a minimum pay for commercial jobs?
I don't know.
Could you do like a $5,000 tiny commercial?
I think so. I don't know, actually. I don't know. But I did my short DGA.
Oh, really?
And that's...
What was the advantage of doing that?
Because it's going to be on TNT, so we had to.
Oh, really?
And actually, technically, I'm in the DGA, so you have to anyways,
Right.
but yes.
Because it would have been easy not to, right? Like you just.
But because
don't
of like
report it
the
and stuff.
release of it, I had to. And also even like SAG, I think like we had to be buttoned up about everything.
Sure. Great.
Well, so the last thing I want to ask you about is like, what about TV?
I want to direct TV. I've done many programs from Fox to NBC, and I've shadowed on a ton of shows, and I just haven't had the opportunity yet. Like, it's been hard to break in. And I know it's not unique to me because a lot of my female director friends, you know, I know it's opening up a lot right now. And I think with this short, like I'm getting a ton of TV meetings, but I haven't had that first opportunity yet. And I'm excited to do it. So if anyone's
about,
listening,
like the Ryan Murphy program or any of that stuff, are you into that? Or
yeah, they invited me to be part of it, but I was doing my short. And so, like the short was insane. It took a long time to make. So I had to like it was all I did for about 6-7 months.
Wow. Well,
It was a really intense short.
it paid off. It sounds like so.
Yeah.
yeah. And do you think? Sorry, this is a whole new question, but do you think your doc background informs at all your filmmaking? Because I saw your short. I'm trying to think. I saw Bunyan, the other short you did, and they're not doc style at all.
No,
They're
I'm really into like crafted, art directed, but there is a naturalism, even if it's heightened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being and even my documentaries though, they're more crafted than like super rough verite. So I think it's still me, but also as a documentary filmmaker, I think you also like learn to like be very agile and like adapt and like even like what you need, like you're like, we don't have enough time. We have to like kill 8 shots, and you like just like going with the flow and being open. And it's like, I think it's really good training, or just, it's good. Like as a documentary filmmaker, you're shooting a lot and seeing a lot of real life moments. And I think that's very helpful for narrative or commercial, I think it's all good. I think everything informs each other. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I think about that a lot. Well, cool. Let's get into our final segment of the show.
Unpaid endorsements.
All right, Oren, you want to take it away?
Sure. So my endorsement is, you guys know bagels? The breakfast food?
Sure.
I mean, you can eat it at any time of the day.
If you're a college student, yeah, all-time food.
Well, so they're pretty fattening, right? Like if you eat one every day. What I figured out the other day is if you take like a bagel, like a regular fat bagel, and you take a bread knife and you cut it, instead of cutting it in half, you cut it in like thirds. So you basically try to cut like the very top sliver and like a very bottom sliver, and then you have this middle like ring. You put that ring in the trash can, and then you just toast to like the top third
There's
and the
something where they
bottom third.
hollow out that.
Yeah,
I didn't get
that's
that.
scooped,
Yeah,
right?
there's-
Oh yeah, there's a scoop bagel, but that just seems weird to me, right?
This
I
is
think
your
that-
cultural recommendation.
There's also, I think there are,
Oh, wafer
Bagels
thin
that are
bagels.
thinner,
Yeah,
yeah.
but those aren't good.
you're
Come
like,
on.
no, just throw out.
Well, no, you have to get a good. Well, did you see that Seinfeld episode where they're trying to sell muffin tops,
Sure, yeah.
and then they try to bake muffin tops without the muffin, and they're just not good. And
That's
so
hilarious.
They have to bake them with the muffin, but they can't get rid of the muffin bottoms. They have to call in Newman to take care of them. Anyway, that's what I think about bagels. Like you can't get a skinny bagel. You got to make it. But try it. Next time you make a bagel, cut it into thirds, slice across, and I promise you, you'll like it better. And it's like, it toasts faster, and it's like a perfect toast. I don't know. It's awesome. Cream cheese, cucumbers, and then my favorite new find from Trader Joe's like a year ago is called Everything But the Bagel. It's a seasoning that has like everything that's
yeah.
on an everything bagel, like salt and poppy seeds and sesame seeds and all that stuff. Put that on top of the cream cheese. Anyway,
Are people still listening?
that's my recommendation. It's
Love it.
life changing.
This is hilarious. That's so funny. I'm gonna
Awesome.
try
And
it.
by the way, both sides of my family, the super pro-Trump and the super anti-Trump sides, both love this everything but the bagel thing. So
Listen,
that seasoning, I think it can bring us together.
it's bringing us together. It's everything. It's all stuff.
Yeah.
Jessica, what you got?
Mine was more like cultural.
Sure. No,
Although
that's okay.
bagels are cultural.
How is that not cultural?
No, you're
Yeah.
right.
You can go
That was
for
like
it.
edible. I didn't know we had to do edible.
No.
I just like it when
nothing.
friends intersect creatively. And my friend Jonas Belpash, who you guys should interview, has a series on Netflix called Social Fabric. He's very fashionable. It's all about like fashion and the culture behind it. And my costume designer, Shirley Carrata, who's incredible and is Rodarte's stylist, she was on it. I was like, oh my God. And it was all about jeans. And she and her man, Charlie Staunton, have a really cool store in Silver Lake called Virgil Normal. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Where is that?
It's on the corner
corner
of
of Virgil
Normal
and Normal?
Oh yeah, Virgil Normal, and
Let
they
me
have like a
guess.
cereal bar in the back where you can get like cereal.
Oh, but it's not a cereal bar. It's not.
No,
like
it's a
one-
store, but in the back there's like a little hangout section. Anyways, they're cool. So just like it was fun to see a show that my friend created that I think is really good, and then my friend on it, and I don't know, it's like made me happy. It's like it's when you have creative comrades and they're all
Yeah.
connecting.
So the
Exciting.
jeans episode of Social Fabric
Correct.
on
Love it.
Netflix.
Correct.
I haven't watched
Cool.
that show. I should check it out.
I
That
liked
sounds
it,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Queer Eye,
Oh my God, I love that
which
show.
has
Yeah,
some
it's so
fashion
good.
in it. Did you know? So you know Tan on Queer Eye? Mm-hmm. He like
one's he?
he's the Indian guy, and he like tells every guy to do the French tuck.
Yeah.
and now
You've
there's like an
noticed it.
explosion
Yeah.
of French
What's
tuck.
French tuck?
It's like when you have a button-down shirt and you just like tuck the front, the front
really?
of it into your pants, but not the back.
Oh no.
Oh man, you haven't
So
watched
now
season
everyone-
2. Like it's like literally every single episode. He's like, I'm gonna
But
chew
do
out
you
a
see
French
like
tuck.
people in the world now doing
Yeah.
French tuck?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Instagram, type in French tuck on Instagram. It's like
But now
everyone
people
in the
are
world.
affected by it.
Yeah, like big time.
I think it's the power of film, you guys.
For real. So I'll,
Yeah.
Social good or fashion.
They removed non-French tucks from lineups.
I need to figure out because Jonathan in season 2 talks about how you shouldn't wash your hair as much. You should
yeah,
wash
you're
your
not.
hair
It's like once a week.
Oh,
once a
that-
week.
Once
is
or
what he
twice
says.
a week.
And my hair, I started to be like, oh, I'll just rinse it. It's no problem. That's great. And I feel disgusting all the time.
No, it'll even out. I
don't know.
I used to wash my
Really?
hair every day now.
How does my hair look right now?
Looks
I
great.
didn't know what you looked like before, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's in a bit of an eye. It's too long, so it's real floppy. But yeah, I got dry shampoo and stuff, and I just feel disgusting all the time.
You don't need to do that.
That's what he said.
The oils will figure themselves
I
out.
googled it, and it
Yeah,
was
don't
like,
worry about it.
Oh man.
Well, I guess you're right. It depends on the body.
Yeah,
you
I
may
mean,
not need dry.
I think I'm a grease ball, is what I'm saying. So
Well, then
I don't
you
know.
do-
We'll
then
see.
yeah.
Jonathan,
Your
you're on
endorsement
blast.
Is to ignore Queer Eye at Rex.
Yeah, I'm wearing a flowery shirt and French tucking
Blazer.
it, and I washed my face for the first time. Okay, so my endorsement, boy, we've got 3 winners this time, guys. My endorsement is The Onion. They've been doing more videos again recently. I feel like The Onion used to have the best political satire videos there for a while. They were spending a ton of money, and they were doing this morning show and stuff. Anyway, they're back, and there's a Mamma Mia review from their quote unquote film critic that is the best. And it's basically just about how Mamma Mia 2 is a super fun romp that you can take on face value unless your soul is rotten and you can't enjoy love anymore. And that's basically the joke
wanna
over
see
and
the
over again.
movie.
It's fine. I'll say this. There's not enough Meryl Streep.
That's a
wanna
problem
see
with
it.
every movie.
Yeah, that's
wanna
true.
see it.
It's fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're...
I love a fun movie.
Unless
There's
you're a
like
husk of a
20
person.
Making this hardcore, rape prison movie, but then I want to make a musical.
Sure.
Like
May
that.
have Pierce Brosnan dance
Yeah.
with Colin Firth on a
Yeah,
boat.
Definitely.
I think
Sounds
that's a
fun.
totally normal. I think I've always want to make the opposite.
The opposite of what you made before.
Yeah. How can we find out what's going on with the feature, the short? I mean, you have a website,
I have a
Jessie
website,
Sanders.
JessicaSandersFilm.com.
Oh, nice. And do you tweet?
No,
Instagram?
no.
Okay, so our listeners will just go to your website to keep track of things
I know.
when your movie
I'm
comes
not
out. That's okay.
super social media girl. I mean, I have a tweet thing. No, but I don't really use it. Yeah.
Somehow I picked up on that.
I have a tweet device of some sort.
Well, let us know when your movie is out, and we'll let our listeners know, because they can follow us at Just Shoot It Pod on all social media. You can follow me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And me at Smitey Pyleg. You can email us questions, comments at justshootitpod@gmail.com. Leave us a review on iTunes, and that'll be awesome. This episode was edited by Christopher Robert Gray, and our webmaster is Ewan Williams, and our producer is Madeline Rosewatt.
The music was provided by the Free Music Archive and the artist Jahzzar. Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.